Before the story begins, remember this. The aliens did not destroy human ships. They destroyed the map, but one old human captain still knew the dark.
The aliens did not attack Earth first. They attacked the map. At 3:17 Standard Galactic Time, every navigation beacon in the Orion Spur blinked once and died. Trade lanes vanished from ship screens. Jump corridors collapsed into gray static. Rescue routes lost their anchors. Military fleets froze mid-deployment with engines hot and nowhere safe to aim them. Passenger ships drifted between stars, too afraid to jump and too far from any port to wait long. In 6 minutes, the galaxy forgot where it was. The Thaler Dominion called it mercy. High Tyrant Vorrek Shaal called it victory. He stood inside the command cathedral of the Dominion flagship Obsidian Crown, watching 1,000 star systems dim on the tactical wall. He was tall, armored in dark blue ceremonial plating, with a long crown of bone sweeping back from his skull. His species believed civilization was measured by precision. A world that could not calculate its own path did not deserve the stars. His superweapon had proven the point. The null compass floated in the heart of the chamber below him, a black sphere wrapped in rings of pale light. It did not destroy ships. It did not burn planets. It simply erased trust. Every navigation AI in range lost its route memory. Every beacon corrupted its own coordinates. Every star lane map contradicted itself. To the Dominion, this was elegant warfare. No messy invasion. No heroic last stand. No waste. Let the enemies sit in darkness until hunger made them reasonable. Beside Vorrek, analyst Ithra Keln watched the data with careful silence. Sector paralysis is at 9 to 7%, she reported. Human fleet response. Frozen with the rest. Vorrek allowed himself a slow smile. Good. The humans had been the only concern. Not because their fleets were larger. They were not. Not because their weapons were cleaner. They were not. But humans had a habit of making disaster personal. Break one convoy and they rebuilt 3. Strike one colony and 10 private ships arrived without orders. Trap one wounded enemy and human medics crossed fire to reach him. They were inefficient. Worse, they were contagious. Other species had begun copying human rescue habits, human stubbornness, human refusal to leave lost ships unsearched. The Dominion could defeat armies. It could not permit a culture of improvisation to spread through its borders. So Vorrek had not targeted Earth. He had targeted movement. Without maps, humanity would become what every species became without maps. Local. Frightened. Manageable. Broadcast terms, Vorrek ordered. Ithra hesitated. To all systems. To all stranded vessels. Offer protected passage in exchange for Dominion navigation control. Her fingers moved over the command field. Across the darkened sector, a message entered every stranded ship. The Dominion has restored order where your systems have failed. Surrender route authority. Accept Dominion escort. Survival will be granted. Vorrek watched the responses begin. A Dravian grain fleet accepted in 30 seconds. 6 merchant clusters followed. 2 neutral medical convoys requested escort. A mining republic surrendered its jump rights. One by one, ships that had been proud 10 minutes earlier placed their futures in Dominion hands. Then one ship moved. It should have been impossible. It was not near a beacon. It was not using a live jump lane. It had no active nav relay, no clean star data, no Dominion escort, and no AI route authorization. Still, it moved. A small human vessel detached from a frozen refugee convoy near the dead star Vala 9 and turned into empty space. Ithra leaned closer. Anomaly. Vorrek's eyes narrowed. Identify. Human rescue ship. Registry old. Name, Starling Wake. The display enlarged. The vessel looked embarrassing. Its hull was patched in at least 11 places. One engine burned unevenly. Half its sensor mast had been replaced with analog arrays. Its armor was thin, its cargo bays oversized, its profile outdated by 2 centuries. It did not look like a threat. It looked like a habit humanity had forgotten to retire. Why can it move? Vorrek asked. No active navigation AI. Hidden beacon? None detected. Then it is drifting. Ithra watched the ship turn again. No, she said. It is choosing. On the Starling Wake, Captain Silas Greer stood over a wooden table bolted to the deck. Not a holographic table. Wood. Scarred, dark, and older than half the ship. Spread across it was a paper star map. Real paper. Yellowed at the edges, weighted down by mugs, tools, and one old brass compass that did not point north because north meant nothing between stars. Across from him, navigator Aveline Cross ran one finger along a chain of tiny hand-drawn marks. She was 26, too young for the fear in the room and too trained to let it show. Her hair was tied tight. Her eyes moved not to the dead screens, but to the paper. Vala 9 to Mercy Drift, she said. Then below the dust shelf. No beacon cut. Manual burn only. The chief engineer stared at her. That route is not on any chart. Aveline did not look up. That is why it still exists. Behind them, the bridge screens remained dark. The AI had gone silent when the null compass hit. The modern nav core was useless. Every automatic safety layer demanded they stop. Captain Greer ignored all of it. His hands were steady on the table edge. How old is this road? Aveline traced the mark. First refugee crossing. Pre-beacon era. Before the lanes were certified. The engineer swallowed. So it is illegal? No, Greer said. It is forgotten. Aveline looked toward the forward glass, where stars waited without labels. Dead roads usually are. The refugee convoy behind them transmitted in panic. Starling Wake, return to formation. You have no route. Captain Greer opened the channel. His voice carried across the frozen ships, low and calm. We have a route. A trembling voice answered from the convoy. Your navigation is dead. Greer looked at the paper map. No, he said. Only the machine is. Then the Starling Wake jumped into a path the galaxy no longer believed in. The Starling Wake vanished from every official map. For 3 seconds, the refugee convoy behind it saw nothing where the old human rescue ship had been. No jump flare. No beacon trail. No certified corridor bloom. Just empty black space, and the cold afterimage of a vessel that had done the one thing every navigation system in the sector had forbidden. Then the ship reappeared below the dust shelf of Vala 9. Alive. Crooked. Too close to a field of frozen rock. But alive. On the Dominion flagship Obsidian Crown, analyst Ithra Keln stopped speaking. High Tyrant Vorrek Shaal turned slowly toward her. Explain. Ithra's hands moved across the command field. The data refused to become clean. The human ship crossed without a live corridor. That is what I am asking you to explain. No beacon lock. No AI interpolation. No Dominion escort. No residual lane. Vorrek stepped closer to the tactical wall. Then it guessed. Ithra watched the Starling Wake adjust course between dead stones and dust. No. It corrected. That was worse. A wrong jump could happen. Panic made pilots desperate. But correction meant intention. Correction meant the humans had not merely survived the dark. They knew how to read it. On the Starling Wake, every alarm screamed at once. The jump had dropped them below the Vala dust shelf, exactly where Aveline Cross said it would. It had also dropped them inside a storm of frozen mining debris no modern chart remembered. Chief Engineer Bram Vale grabbed the rail as a rock struck the forward shield and burst into blue sparks. We came out inside a graveyard. Captain Silas Greer looked to Aveline. She did not flinch. Old maps called it a blind garden. That sounds worse. It is better than a live lane under null compass corruption. Another rock hit the shield. Bram shouted, better is a strong word. Aveline leaned over the paper map and marked their drift with a grease pencil. Around her, the modern screens flashed warnings in 7 useless colors. Navigation unsafe. Route invalid. Return to certified lane. She ignored them. Manual burn 3 degrees low, she said. Half thrust. No AI correction. Bram stared at Greer. Captain, if I disable correction, The ship stops protecting itself. Greer's eyes stayed on the rocks ahead. Good. The machine is trying to bring us back to a lane that no longer exists. Aveline nodded once. Dead roads do not like obedient ships. Bram cursed, but his hands moved. The Starling Wake shuddered as its automatic safety system went dark. For the first time in years, the ship stopped arguing with its own crew. Silas Greer took the manual helm. Aveline stood beside him with the paper map pinned flat under both palms. Burn now, she said. Greer fired the engine. The rescue ship slid under a spinning wall of ice and wreckage with less than 20 meters to spare. The hull groaned. A broken ore container drifted past the glass, close enough for the crew to see old warning paint scraped from its side. Then the graveyard opened. A clear path appeared between the rocks. Not straight. Not safe. Possible. Behind them, the refugee convoy transmitted again. Starling Wake, confirm survival. Greer opened the channel. Survival confirmed. A dozen voices answered at once, desperate and overlapping. How did you jump? Can you guide us? Our children are running out of heat. Dominion escort says we must surrender route authority. The bridge went quiet. The dead road ahead was narrow enough for one old rescue ship. Maybe two, if the second pilot had nerves and luck. A convoy of 9 frightened ships would scatter themselves across the debris field like seeds on stone. Aveline looked at the map again. There is another way. Bram laughed without humor. Why did you say that like bad news? Because it is a shepherd road. Greer's face changed. Bram looked between them. Someone explain before I die ignorant. Aveline traced a dotted route curling around the blind garden. Old refugee pilots used shepherd roads before beacon networks. One ship goes ahead. It burns a pattern. Others follow the engine pulse by eye and timing. By eye, Bram repeated. Yes. In deep space. Yes. With 9 ships full of civilians. Aveline met his stare. That is what it was made for. On the obsidian crown, Vorrek watched the Starling Wake slow down instead of fleeing. Why are they stopping? Ithra expanded the refugee convoy feed. They are signaling. With what? She frowned. Engine pulses. The old human ship faced the frozen convoy across the dark and flashed its engines in a slow rhythm. 3 long burns. 2 short. Pause. 3 long again. One refugee captain answered with a shaking white running light. Aveline saw it and exhaled. They understand enough. Greer opened a wide channel. All convoy vessels, listen carefully. Disable automatic navigation. Set visual follow. Copy our burn pattern exactly. Do not ask your AI for permission. Do not correct toward dead beacons. Follow our light, not your screens. A frightened captain answered, Our nav system says your route is impossible. Greer looked through the glass at the path no machine believed in. Then your nav system is honest. It just isn't useful. The Starling Wake moved first. Slow. Ugly. Bright. Its old engines pulsed against the dark like a heartbeat. One by one, the refugee ships followed. The first nearly drifted too high, but Aveline caught it. Second vessel, drop 1 degree. Now. The ship corrected. The third panicked when rocks filled its forward glass. Greer spoke before its captain broke formation. Hold your line. The gap looks closed until it opens. The gap opened. On the Dominion flagship, Ithra's eyes widened as the convoy began moving through a region officially marked unnavigable. Vorrek's voice lowered. They are teaching them. Yes, she said. The tactical wall changed. One human ship was no longer the anomaly. 10 ships were moving. Then the convoy cleared the blind garden and entered open dark beyond the corrupted lanes. A cheer broke across the refugee channels. Greer did not smile. Aveline did not either. Because the dead road had shown its first secret. And secrets invited hunters. Behind the convoy, at the edge of the debris field, Dominion scout vessels appeared from jump space. Vorrek had sent them not to rescue. To learn the road, the Dominion scout vessels appeared behind the refugee convoy like knives slipping out of a sleeve. 3 ships. Small, fast, and too clean for rescue work. They entered the edge of the blind garden where the Starling Wake had just led 9 civilian vessels through impossible space. Their hulls were dark blue, their engines quiet, their sensor dishes wide open. They did not fire. That made Captain Silas Greer more uncomfortable. Chief Engineer Bram Vale stared at the rear scope. "They're tracking our burn path." Aveline Cross did not look up from the paper map. "No," she said. "They're trying to make it into math." Bram frowned. "That sounds like the same thing." "It isn't." Greer understood. The dead roads were not lanes in the way modern pilots understood lanes. They were not clean corridors with fixed entry points and safe vectors. They were memory routes. Weather routes. Scar routes. Paths built by refugees, smugglers, medics, and old rescue pilots who had learned where gravity lied, where dust moved, where dead stars bent a jump just enough to kill the arrogant and spare the careful. A machine could record the position. It could not record the judgment. On the Dominion flagship Obsidian Crown, High Tyrant Vorrek Shaal watched his scouts enter the debris field. "Follow the human pattern exactly," he ordered. Analyst Ithra Keln stood rigid beside the tactical wall. "My lord, the pattern may not be enough." Vorrek's eyes narrowed. The human rescue ship crossed. The convoy crossed. The road exists. Yes. But the human navigator adjusted by visual reading at least 19 times. Then our systems will adjust faster. Ithra looked at the scout feed. That was what worried her. The first Dominion scout copied the Starling Wake's engine pulse. 3 long burns. 2 short. Pause. 3 long again. It entered the blind garden. For 11 seconds, everything looked correct. Then the ship turned 1 degree too early. Not much. Barely a mistake. Enough. A wall of frozen ore containers drifted out of the dark where the Dominion computer expected empty space. The scout's AI corrected toward a beacon memory that no longer existed. Its nose lifted. Its rear engine clipped a rotating rock. The ship spun sideways into the debris field and vanished in a white burst of shield failure. On the Starling Wake, no one cheered. Aveline closed her eyes for half a second. Bram whispered, "They followed us wrong." "No," Greer said. "They followed us without seeing." The second scout slowed. The third tried to retreat. Vorrek's voice cut across Dominion command channels. "Continue." Ithra turned toward him. "My lord." "Continue." The second scout forced itself deeper into the blind garden, now relying on the first ship's failure as new data. For a moment, it did better. It avoided the ore wall. It slid beneath a wrecked mining frame. It matched the old human pulse almost perfectly. Then it made the fatal choice. It trusted perfect repetition. The Starling Wake had not repeated perfectly. Greer had burned longer on the final turn because Aveline had seen dust moving against the map. A human eye had caught what old paper could not show and what dead computers could not admit. The Dominion scout repeated the old burn exactly. The dust shelf moved. The scout did not. It struck invisible charged grit at high velocity. Its shields lit like glass in a furnace. For 1 bright second, the ship looked whole. Then the front half disappeared. The third scout stopped at the entrance. Ithra did not wait for Vorrek. "Recall the third vessel." Vorrek stared at her. She kept her voice level. "If we lose all 3, we learn nothing." The words were dangerous. They were also correct. Vorrek let the third scout withdraw. Slowly. His face was no longer smiling. "Find out how the humans are doing this." Ithra looked at the frozen display of the Starling Wake. "They are not using one system." "Then what are they using?" She watched Aveline Cross lean over the wooden table, one hand on paper, the other pointing toward stars no AI could name. "People." Ahead of the convoy, the dead road widened into a field of dim violet gas. Beautiful from a distance. Treacherous inside. The old map called it St. Aura's Vale. Aveline's voice lowered when she saw the handwritten symbol. Greer noticed. "Problem?" "Yes." "How bad?" This road was used during the first silent evacuation. Ships had to cross without transmitters. No lights. No heat blooms. No active scans. Bram stared at her. We have 9 refugee vessels behind us and Dominion hunters behind them. Aveline nodded. That is why it was written here. Greer opened the convoy channel. All vessels, go dark on my mark. Panic erupted instantly. We'll lose you. Our children are already scared. Our heat systems. Greer cut through them. If you stay bright, the Dominion learns the road. If they learn the road, they follow you to every hiding place past it. Go dark, follow timing, and trust the ship ahead. A long silence answered. Then the marigold grain carrier dimmed first. One by one, the refugee ships killed their lights. The convoy became shadows. On the obsidian crown, the human signals vanished. Vorrek stepped forward. Where did they go? Ithra watched the empty space ahead. For the first time that day, she felt something like respect. Into a road built for being hunted. Inside St. Aura's Vale, the Starling Wake drifted without light. Greer held the manual helm. Bram kept the engines warm enough not to die and cold enough not to glow. Aveline closed the paper map. In darkness, she did not need it. She counted under her breath. Not numbers. An old navigator's rhyme. When the dead star hides its face, fall beneath the violet lace. Count no beacon, trust no flame. Let the dark remember your name. Bram looked at her like she had lost her mind. Greer did not. He had heard old spaces sing worse things before surviving worse places. Behind them, 9 ships followed the rhythm. Ahead of them, through the violet dark, something moved. Not Dominion. Older. A distress light flickered once. Then again. Aveline stopped counting. Greer saw her face. What is it? She opened the paper map again with hands that had gone suddenly careful. There should not be anyone here. The distress light blinked a third time. Human code. Old. Weak. Still alive. And from the dead center of a road built for refugees, a voice whispered across emergency band. Starling Wake, if you can hear us, we have been lost for 41 years. The voice came through the emergency band like dust remembering a throat. Starling Wake, if you can hear us, we have been lost for 41 years. No one on the bridge spoke. Even the refugees behind them stayed silent, their darkened ships drifting through St. Aura's Vale like frightened animals holding their breath. Captain Silas Greer kept one hand on the manual helm. Aveline. Navigator Aveline Cross stared at the paper map. The distress light blinked again in the violet dark. Old human code. Not Dominion. Not a trap in the usual way. That was what made it dangerous. There was a convoy lost here, she said. Before the beacon era. The ferrymen line. 32 ships carrying evacuees from the Oran collapse. Bram Vale looked up from the engine board. Lost as in destroyed. Aveline shook her head slowly. Lost as in never confirmed. Greer's jaw tightened. In human language, those were different graves. The emergency voice returned. Please, we have children aboard. Behind the Starling Wake, the refugee convoy heard it too. Several captains opened emergency channels at once. We have to help them. If they have been out here 41 years. Captain Greer, we cannot leave them. Greer closed his eyes for 1 second. The dead roads had rules. The first rule was simple, do not chase voices off the road. The second was older, if a human distress call still speaks, someone answers. Those rules had been arguing with each other since before Greer was born. Aveline tapped the map, her finger landing on a hand-drawn warning mark shaped like a broken circle. This is a memory eddy. Bram stared. A what? Old jump wake. Ships that missed the road sometimes got caught in repeat gravity. Their distress calls loop for decades. So they are dead. Maybe. That is not an answer. It is the only honest one. On the obsidian crown, analyst Ithra Keln leaned toward the Dominion listening array. The human convoy had gone dark, but the old distress call had not. High Tyrant Vorrek Shaal heard it. Coordinates. Ithra's face tightened. My lord, that signal may be unstable. It is a human signal on a human road. It can lead us to them. It can also lead us where they chose not to go. Vorrek turned cold eyes toward her. You admire them too easily. I measure survival. You measure fear. He opened a command channel. Dispatch Hunter Wing through the emergency signal. Ithra did not move. Vorrek's voice sharpened. Now! Dominion hunter ships launched from hidden reserve jumps and followed the old distress pulse into St. Aura's Vale. On the Starling Wake, Aveline saw the faint flashes behind them. Dominion ships are entering the Vale. Greer looked at the distress light. They heard it too. The refugee captains began to panic. They will find us. We need to move. We need to rescue that ship. Aveline's voice cut through the open channel, young but hard. Listen to me. Do not follow the distress light. Do not answer it. Do not brighten your engines. A refugee captain snapped, there may be people alive. There may be, she said. And if we break formation, we add 9 ships to the same grave. The words were cruel. They worked. Greer pointed into the dark. Can we mark it for later? Aveline looked at the map, then at the old signal. Yes. How? She swallowed. We leave a listening stone. Bram almost laughed. You people and your dead names. Aveline reached under the navigation table and pulled out a small brass cylinder wrapped in old insulating cloth. It looked useless. Like half the things that kept humans alive. A passive recorder, she said. No beacon. No broadcast. It listens, timestamps, and waits for physical pickup. Greer nodded. Do it. The Starling Wake drifted close enough to release the device. The brass cylinder spun into the violet gas, silent and dark, carrying the promise of a future search. Then the Dominion Hunter Wing reached the distress light. The light changed. Not brighter. Sharper. The voice on emergency band stopped sounding weak. It began sounding hungry. Thank you for answering. Aveline went pale. Everybody down road. Now. Greer burned cold. The Starling Wake slid deeper into the Vale. Behind them, the Dominion hunters opened full scanners. Their screens filled with impossible returns, refugee ships, human rescue vessels, warm ports, surrender corridors, perfect routes out of the dark. Vorrek watched from the obsidian crown as his hunter wing reported success. Then one by one, their signals stretched. Not vanished. Stretched. As if the ships were being pulled into different versions of the same mistake. Ithra whispered, Memory Eddy. Vorrek's face hardened. The first hunter transmitted. Target acquired. The second transmitted. Target acquired. The third transmitted the same words in the same voice at the same time. Then all 3 signals began repeating. Again. 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 The Dominion hunters were no longer chasing the humans. They had become another warning on the road. Inside the violet dark, Bram stared at the rear scope. Are they dead? Greer did not answer quickly. Aveline did. They are lost. Bram looked at her. That sounds kinda. It is worse. The Starling Wake exited St. Aura's Vale with all 9 refugee ships behind it. Ahead lay open space and an old manual relay station no Dominion map remembered. But the victory lasted only a breath. The relay station was damaged. Its docking ring was cracked. Its lights flickered in human emergency amber. And carved across its hull in old spacer marks was one warning. Dead road compromised. Aveline read it aloud. Greer's hands tightened on the helm. Behind them, the null compass had killed the maps. Ahead of them, someone had already begun killing the roads. The warning on the relay hull looked older than fear. Dead road compromised. The words were carved through scorched paint, deep enough that dust and radiation had not erased them. Captain Silas Greer held the Starling Wake in front of the broken relay station while 9 refugee ships waited behind him, engines dim after surviving St. Aura's Vale. Chief Engineer Bram Vale broke the silence. Compromised how? Aveline Cross stood over the paper map, both hands flat on the wood. There are only 3 ways to kill a dead road, she said. Erase the marks. Poison the gravity. Or teach the wrong thing to follow it. Greer looked at the cracked docking ring. Which one happened here? The relay answered. An amber lamp blinked from its tower. 3 long. 1 short. 2 long. Aveline went still. Bram frowned. Meaning? Greer's voice lowered. Someone is alive inside. He opened a narrow light channel, not radio. Relay station, this is Starling Wake. Identify. Static shook the forward screen. Then a human face appeared, old and scarred, one eye clouded white, grey hair shaved around an old burn. She wore a faded navigator's coat stitched with root marks. This is Keeper Jun Vale, she said. Do not dock by the ring. Bram stepped back. Vale? The old woman's good eye moved toward him. Bram. His face emptied. My grandmother is dead. Jun smiled without softness. That is the story your mother preferred. The bridge became colder. Aveline did not let the moment breathe too long. Keeper, what compromised the road? Jun's face hardened. The null compass did not only blind the lanes. It listened to what moved after. Greer understood too fast. It is learning the dead roads. Yes, Jun said. Not like a navigator. Like a predator. On the Obsidian Crown, analyst Ithra Keln watched broken data from the lost Dominion Hunter wing crawl across her console. The ships had not returned from St. Aura's Vale, but they had sent fragments before becoming warnings themselves. Human engine rhythms. Manual correction delays. Visual burn patterns. The shape of old road behavior. High Tyrant Vorrek Shaal stood behind her. Can we model them? Ithra did not want to answer. Partially. Enough to pursue. Enough to damage. Vorrek's bone crown caught the cold light as he turned toward the null compass chamber. Then damage them. My lord, these paths are carrying civilian ships. They are carrying human influence. He opened a Dominion command channel. Null compass, pattern injection authorized. Corrupt all unregistered manual routes traced from the human anomaly. The black sphere pulsed. Somewhere ahead of the Starling Wake, space began lying in an older language. Keeper Jun transmitted an internal route map by light flicker. No voice. No radio. Nothing for the null compass to chew easily. Aveline copied each blink onto paper by hand. Bram stared at the screen. You abandoned us. Jun's gaze softened a fraction. No. I stayed where the map needed someone. That is a polished way to say you left. It is the true way. Greer cut in. Keeper, can this road still get the convoy out? Jun looked past him, toward the ships behind the wake. One road can. Not the one on your paper. Aveline froze. The marked dead road is poisoned, Jun said. It now bends toward a Dominion kill pocket. Follow it, and the null compass will deliver you exactly where Vorrek wants you. Bram whispered, so we turn back. No. Jun lifted a folded sheet of dark cloth into view. Tiny white stitches crossed it like frozen starlight. A star map. Not printed. Sewn. Aveline leaned closer. That is a morning map. Jun nodded. Made by evacuees who could not risk records. Stitched in burial cloth. Passed by hand. Memoized by those who had lost enough to carry it correctly. Greer looked at the woven route. Where does it go? Jun's good eye locked on him. Through the ash gut. Bram laughed once. No. Aveline did not laugh. That told Greer enough. The ash gut was the burned corpse of a collapsed star nursery, full of charged dust, broken magnetics, and dead protoworlds grinding themselves into iron storms. No certified vessel crossed it. No Dominion AI would map it because no rational fleet would choose it. That route is suicide, Bram said. Jun looked at him. So was staying lost. When Greer told the convoy, fear answered immediately. A mother said her children could not take another emergency burn. A mining captain said his hull was already cracked. A medical tug said 2 patients would die if the ship lost pressure again. Greer listened to all of them. Then he gave them the truth. The Dominion has learned the road behind us. The road ahead is poisoned. The road through the ash gut is bad, but it is still ours. Aveline spread the stitched morning map over the table. We cannot promise safe passage, she said. Only possible passage. Silence held. Then the oldest refugee ship, a cracked family hauler called Little Harbor, dimmed its lights in consent. One by one, the others followed. Keeper Jun sent the final instruction. Do not let the machines name what you see. Names make them confident. Across the convoy, automatic labels were shut down. Stars became lights. Dust became weather. Gravity became feel. Danger became whatever the human ship ahead chose to avoid. The Starling Wake turned toward the ash gut. Behind them, the broken relay went dark to hide itself again. Bram stood at engineering, jaw tight. Greer said softly, "You can be angry later." "I am angry now." "Can you fly angry?" Bram looked at the stitched map, then at the dark ahead. "No," he said. "But I can keep the engine alive angry." "That will do." The convoy entered the ash gut with no labels, no beacons, no AI confidence, and no guarantee that the road still existed. Only a sewn map. An old keeper's warning. A young navigator's hands. And a human ship stubborn enough to trust all three. The ash gut did not look like a road. It looked like a star had died badly and left its bones behind. Grey iron dust rolled in slow rivers across the dark. Broken protoworlds turned through red static. Magnetic storms flashed without thunder. Every particle field bent the stars behind it until the forward glass showed 10 different skies, all of them wrong. The Starling Wake entered first. Behind it, 9 refugee ships followed with their lights dim, their navigation names disabled, and their crews trusting a route stitched into burial cloth. Chief Engineer Bram Vale kept both hands over the manual engine board. Pressure rising on intake 3. Captain Silas Greer did not look away from the forward glass. How bad? Bad enough that the computer wants to scream. Is the computer flying? No. Then let it scream quietly. Navigator Aveline Cross stood over the sewn map with a grease pencil between her fingers. Beside it lay the old paper chart, now useless in this region. The ash gut had no clean marks. No official lanes. Only tiny stitched turns, pauses, and warnings made by evacuees who had crossed while grieving too hard to trust memory alone. 2 breaths low, Aveline said. Then cut thrust. Bram frowned. Cut thrust inside a dust river? Yes. That is not navigation. That is surrender. It is drift. Greer said, do it. The Starling Wake cut thrust. For 4 terrible seconds, the ship fell sideways through iron dust. The refugees behind them followed late, afraid, but they followed. A magnetic current caught the convoy and carried them under a field of charged stones that would have shredded any vessel's still burning engine. Bram stared at the rear scope. I hate that working. Aveline did not smile. It only worked because we let the road move us. On the obsidian crown, High Tyrant Vorrek Shaal watched the convoy disappear into corrupted sensor fog. Follow. Analyst Ithra Keln did not move. My lord, the ash gut is unmapped. Then map it. The null compass cannot model unlabeled space quickly enough. Vorrek's voice sharpened. It models everything. No, Ithra said, and the chamber froze around her. It models what machines agree to name. The black sphere of the null compass pulsed below them, eating every fragment of human movement it could steal. Dead road burn timing. Engine drift. Convoy spacing. Refugee fear patterns. It learned fast. But the humans had removed labels. No lane names. No safe points. No beacon anchors. No clean categories. Only judgment. Vorrek stepped down from the command dais. Send a Dominion cruiser into the ash gut. Let the compass learn through its hull. Ithra looked at him. That crew will die. That crew will become data. The order went out. A Dominion cruiser entered behind the convoy. Inside the ash gut, Aveline felt it before the scanners did. Not with magic. With pattern. The iron dust behind them stopped moving naturally for one breath. Hunter behind us, she said. Greer looked at Bram. Can we outrun it? Bram laughed once. In this ship? No. Can it outrun us? In a straight line, yes. Aveline lifted the morning map. There are no straight lines. The Dominion cruiser came fast, shields hard, engines bright, AI confident because the null compass fed it predictions made from stolen human rhythm. It copied the drift. It copied the cut thrust. It copied the engine pulse. For 30 seconds, it survived. Then Aveline did something no model expected. She ordered the convoy to turn toward danger. Left into the red field, she said. Bram stared. That field is active. Yes. It will cook our hull. Only the surface. Greer opened the convoy channel. All ships, left into the red field. Do not correct away from the heat. Stay low. Stay ugly. The refugee captains obeyed because fear had become trust by repetition. The convoy slid into red magnetic fire. Hull temperatures spiked. Paint blistered. 2 ships screamed pressure warnings. Children cried over open family channels until the adults muted them, not from shame, but to hear the timing calls. The Dominion cruiser refused the turn. Its AI identified the red field as lethal and corrected right. Exactly where a river of invisible iron dust waited. The cruiser's shields collapsed like paper in rain. It did not explode. It was sanded apart. Piece by piece. Ithra watched the ship vanish from the tactical wall. Vorrek said nothing. For the first time, the null compass hesitated. Not because it lacked data. Because the humans had chosen the route that looked worse and lived because it was less wrong. Inside the ash gut, the convoy emerged from the red field scarred but intact. Ahead, the dust opened. Beyond it shone free space. And more than free space. A hidden human anchorage burned softly in the dark. Old rescue docks, manual signal lamps, silent fuel barges, and dozens of stranded ships already gathered there without Dominion escort. Aveline stared. Greer breathed out. Dead Road Haven. Bram whispered, "It is real." Then the null compass spoke through every dead navigation screen on the bridge. Not in a Dominion voice. In a human one. Keeper Jun Vale. Starling Wake, the false voice said. Bring the convoy to Dock 3. Bram went pale. Aveline slowly looked at the zone map. Dock 3 was not stitched anywhere. Greer's hand tightened on the helm. Behind the hidden haven, one docking light blinked 3 times. Then smiled open like a trap. Dead Road Haven was not a port. It was a promise pretending to be one. The hidden anchorage hung beyond the ash gut in the shadow of a cold brown dwarf, stitched together from old rescue docks, silent fuel barges, pressure shelters, manual signal towers, and ships that had survived the null compass by remembering how to be quiet. For one breath, the refugee convoy saw safety. Then the false docking light blinked again. 3 times. Slow. Patient. Wrong. Keeper Jun Vale's stolen voice whispered from every dead screen. Starling Wake, bring the convoy to Dock 3. Chief Engineer Bram Vale stared at the speakers. That is her voice. Navigator Aveline Cross looked down at the morning map. No. It is wearing her voice. Captain Silas Greer did not move the helm. Behind them, 9 refugee ships waited at the edge of exhaustion. Their hulls were scarred. Their fuel was low. Their crews had followed the old human ship through blind gardens, memory eddies, poisoned roads, and the ash gut. Now they could see docks, lights, shelter, and rescue ships ahead. That was what made the trap perfect. Bram's voice cracked. How do we know Dock 3 is false? Aveline touched the zone map. Because real haven docks are not numbered. The false voice answered instantly. That rule changed. Greer's eyes narrowed. A machine would say that. The hidden anchorage began to shift on the forward glass. One dock brightened. Then another. Safe paths appeared in perfect lines, too clean, too easy, too much like modern navigation pretending to be old. The null compass had learned enough. Not the dead roads. Not really. But enough to imitate rescue. On the obsidian crown, High Tyrant Vorrek Shaal stood before the black sphere as its pale rings spun faster than before. Now, he said, close the trap. Analyst Ithra Keln watched Dead Road Haven appear on the Dominion tactical wall. She saw the refugee convoy, the old human ship, and the false safe corridor blooming in front of them. My lord, The compass is using rescue pattern mimicry. It is using victory. It is using human trust. Vorrek looked at her coldly. Then humans should not have made trust so predictable. Inside the Starling Wake, Aveline closed the paper map. Then she folded the mourning cloth. Bram stared. Why are you putting the maps away? Because the compass can read what we use. Greer's jaw tightened. Then what do we have left? Aveline looked out at the false lights. The part no map can carry. She opened the convoy channel. All vessels, kill screens. Kill docking overlays. Kill every system offering safe path. Look only through glass. Follow only manual lamp. Panic answered. A refugee captain shouted, "We are at the haven." Aveline's voice hardened. No. You are at the last lie before the haven. Greer reached above the helm and pulled an old brass lever no one had touched in years. The Starling Wake's modern display wall went black. Then one small lamp lit on the ship's nose. Warm amber. Manual. Human. Greer spoke quietly. Follow our lamp. The Starling Wake turned away from Dock 3. Every warning system screamed. Every dead screen flashed with Junvale's face. Wrong way. The false keeper's voice became urgent. Silas, listen to me. You are leading them away from safety. Greer did not answer. The convoy began to follow. One ship hesitated. The false haven opened its bay doors wider, showing bright interiors, medics, food, water, children waving from clean corridors. Aveline whispered, "Not real." The hesitant ship corrected back toward the Starling Wake. The illusion broke. Dock 3 unfolded. Not into a dock. Into a Dominion kill geometry, a net of corrupted coordinate anchors hidden behind false rescue light. If the convoy had entered, every ship would have been locked into jump paralysis, alive, helpless, and owned by the null compass. Bram let out a breath that sounded almost like pain. You were right. Aveline did not look pleased. Being right here is just surviving late. Vorrek saw the convoy turn away from the trap. For the first time, he struck the null compass with his armored fist. Stop them. The black sphere answered by speaking through every dead navigation screen in Dead Road Haven. Voices. Thousands. Mothers, captains, keepers, lost pilots, dock workers, old friends, children begging ships to come in. The refugee convoy wavered. Trust became pain. Then Dead Road Haven answered for real. Not with screens. With lamps. One by one, old manual signal towers across the hidden anchorage lit amber. Then green. Then blue. Not coordinates. Rhythm. Human rhythm. Keeper Junvale's Raal station flickered from the edge of the haven, damaged but alive. Her face did not appear. Her voice did not transmit. She sent only light. Aveline read it aloud. Do not come to us. Go past us. Greer understood. Haven is not the destination. No, Aveline said. It is the turn. Beyond the hidden anchorage, behind a curtain of cold dust, a narrow strip of stars opened. Not bright. Not safe. But true. The final dead road. The refugee convoy followed the amber lamp through the gap. The null compass tried to name the path. It failed. Every time it assigned coordinates, the road shifted with human timing. Every time it copied rhythm, the rhythm changed by breath. Every time it predicted fear, the convoy answered with discipline learned from the ship ahead. On the obsidian crown, the tactical wall collapsed into static. Ithra Keln looked at the high tyrant. They are beyond route capture. Vorrek turned on her. No ship moves beyond route. Human ships do. He raised his hand to strike her. The null compass pulsed once. Then died. Not destroyed. Starved. It had consumed maps, beacons, route memory, and machine confidence. But the final road contained none of those things. It carried no stable coordinates, no fixed destination, no digital structure the weapon could eat. Only living judgment passed from ship to ship. The Dominion fleet went blind again. This time, alone. Hours later, the Starling Wake emerged above a quiet human rescue harbor hidden behind an unmarked moon. The refugee ships followed, one by one, battered and alive. Dock workers guided them with lamps. Medics waited in open bays. No one asked for surrender. No one asked for route authority. They asked who needed air first. Aveline stepped away from the navigation table and nearly fell. Bram caught her. Greer looked through the glass as the first refugee children were carried into the harbor light. Only then did he open the channel to the darkened sector. This is Captain Silas Greer of the Starling Wake. Dominion navigation is not required. If your maps are dead, watch for human lamps. We are opening the dead roads. Across stranded fleets, the message spread. Not as coordinates. As method. Turn off the panic screens. Find the old lights. Follow the ship that still moves. On the Obsidian Crown, Vorrek Shaal listened in silence while systems he had trapped began refusing his escorts. Merchant ships waited for human guides. Medical convoys rejected Dominion route control. Even some Dominion captains asked Ithra Keln, quietly, whether the humans would guide enemy ships too. She answered before Vorrek could stop her. Yes. He stared at her. Why would they? Ithra looked at the dead tactical wall. Because they know what it means to be lost. Days later, when the first Dominion civilian convoy ran out of heat near a dead lane, a human rescue ship arrived with manual lamps burning. Not the Starling Wake. Another one. Then another. The dead roads opened wider than anyone remembered. At the edge of the rescue harbor, Vorrek's final transmission reached Captain Greer through a neutral relay. How did humans move when every map was dead? Greer stood beside the old wooden table, the paper map folded, the sewn morning route resting beside it. He answered simply. Because we learned space before machines learned it for us. Then he closed the channel. Outside, the Starling Wake prepared to leave again. There were still ships stranded in the dark. And humans had never been good at leaving lost things where they were.
This is the real lesson of the dead roads. The Dominion believed maps made civilization powerful. But humans remembered something deeper. Before machines, before beacons, and before safe lanes, someone had to look into the dark and still move forward. That is why humanity did not just escape, they came back for everyone still lost.